Marley was dead. To begin with. There's no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it. And Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hands to. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. Scrooge knew he was dead? Of course he did. How could it be otherwise? Marley and he had been partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole friend, and his sole mourner. And even Scrooge was not so dreadfully cut up by the sad event, but that he was an excellent man of business on the very day of the funeral and solemnized it with an undoubted bargain. The mention of Marley's funeral brings me back to the point I started from. Marley was dead. This must be distinctly understood, or else nothing wonderful can come of the story that I'm about to relate. Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood, years afterward, above the warehouse door. Scrooge and Marley's. The firm was known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people new to the business called Scrooge, and sometimes Marley. But he answered to both names. It was all the same to him. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone. Scrooge, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel ever struck out generous fire. Secrets, self-contained, solitary as an oyster. Nobody ever stopped him in the street to say with gladsome looks, "My dear Mr. Scrooge, when will you come to see me?" No children asked him what it was o'clock. No beggars asked him to bestow a trifle. Even the blind men's dogs appeared to know him, and when they saw him coming on, would tug their owners into doorways and up court, and after he had passed, would wag their tails as though they said, "No eye at all is better than an evil eye, dark master." But what did Scrooge care? It was the very thing he liked, to edge his way along the crowded paths of life, warning all human sympathy to keep its distance. Once upon a time, of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting house. It was cold, bleak, biting weather, foggy withal. The city clocks had only just gone 3, but it was quite dark already. It had not been light all day, and candles were flaring in the windows of the neighboring offices. The fog came pouring in at every chink and keyhole, and was so dense without that, although the court was of the narrowest, the houses opposite were mere phantoms. Ooh! The door of Scrooge's counting house was open that he might keep his eye upon his clerk, who, in a dismal little cell beyond, a sort of tank, was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so very much smaller that it looked like one coal. But he couldn't replenish it, for Scrooge kept the coal box in his own room. And so surely as the clerk came in with the shovel, the master predicted it would be necessary for them to part. Whereon the clerk put on his white comforter and tried to warm himself at the candle, in which effort, not being a man of strong imagination, he failed. "A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!" cried a cheerful voice. It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, who came upon him so suddenly that this was the first intimation he'd had of his approach. Bah! Humbug! He had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost, this nephew of Scrooge's, that he was all in a glow. "Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure." "I do. Merry Christmas. What right have you to be merry? What reason have you to be merry? You're poor enough." "Well, come then. What right have you to be dismal? What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough." Scrooge, having no better answer ready on the spur of the moment, said, "Bah!" and followed it up with, "Humbug! Don't be cross, Uncle. What else can I be when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas, out upon Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? Time for finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer. A time for balancing your books and having every item in them through a round dozen of months presented dead against you. If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart. He should. Uncle, nephew, keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine. Keep it, but you don't keep it. Let me leave it alone then. Much good may it do, much good it has ever done you. There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say, Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas time, when it has come round, apart from the veneration due its sacred name and origin, if anything belonging to it can be apart from that, as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, pleasant time, the only time I know of in the long calendar of the year when men and women seem, by one consent, to open their shut-up hearts freely and to think of people below them as if they really were fellow passengers to the grave and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe it has done me good and will do me good, and I say, God bless it. The clerk in the tank involuntarily applauded. Becoming immediately sensible of the impropriety, he turned and poked the fire, extinguishing the last frail spark forever. Let me hear another sound from you, and you'll keep Christmas by losing your situation. You're a very powerful speaker, sir. I wonder you don't go into Parliament. Don't be cross, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow. I'll see you in hell first. But why? Why? Why did you get married? Because I fell in love. Because you fell in love, as if that were the only thing more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas. Good afternoon. Nay, Uncle, you never came to see me before that happened. Why give it as a reason for not coming now? Good afternoon. I want nothing of you. I ask nothing from you. Why cannot we be friends? Good afternoon. I am sorry, with all my heart, to find you so resolute. We've never had any quarrel to which I've been a party. But I've made the trial in homage to Christmas, and I'll keep my Christmas humour to the last. So, a Merry Christmas, Uncle, good afternoon, and a Happy New Year, good afternoon! The nephew left the room without an angry word, notwithstanding. He did stop and give the greetings of the season to the clerk, who, cold as he was warmer than Scrooge, for he returned them cordially.